We also sent out a listserv earlier in the week to tell everybody that we were also adding a discussion on document deficiencies, some of the things we're noting that are coming in erroneously, and we just want to make sure that people are clear. So we'll get to that in a little while. We are going to start our presentation momentarily, and I just want to make sure that we'll let last few people walking in get a chance to come in and sit down. So we'll just get started in about 1 more minute. And for those who are on the web, welcome. Thank you for participating in today's event. My name is Karen Riccardi. I am with the Office of Community Relations, and I'm also the chairperson of the Site Remediation Programs Training Committee. So myself and a wonderful group of folks inside SRP put together these trainings for the benefit of you and for the benefit of DEP staff to make sure that we're all getting the same information and that everybody is clear as we can be. One of the things we're going to do today is get a good group from the Bureau of Information Systems and Support. They're going to talk about data miner. That'll be Andy Geary. He's going to talk about data miner. Tyrone Jordan. He will be discussing the DP online services. And Nick Sedano will be doing the well search e-tools. You'll want to pay very close attention to that one. There's also, if you haven't already, if you're involved with doing this GIS type of work, you really should go on the SRP GIS webpage. There's a lot of great tools out there, and Nick and Andy and Tyrone will, again, go into that in a little bit more detail. And lastly, our last presenter of the afternoon will be Kirsten Pointon-Hahn from the Bureau of Initial Notice and Case Assignments, and she will be discussing, as I said, the document deficiencies with fees, report submissions, forms, all those great things that everyone loves to get excited about. So with that, we're going to get started. Our format today is going to be pretty simple. The guys are going to come up. We're going to do their PowerPoint presentations or videos in Nick's case. If you could please hold your questions to the end of their presentations. It is important for this webinar to have everyone, please, for questions, when we get to the questions at the end, please use one of the microphones. We'll either come around or walk up to this microphone. We're a little short on mics today, so we'll make the best of it. So with that, I would like to, before I forget, one more very important person I don't want to forget, Mr. Dan Toder from the LSRPA, who was gracious enough to come here and provide everybody with a few updates on what the LSRPA is doing. And also would like to thank you and your members for the presentation and for the refreshments today. Thank you, Dan.
Thanks for almost not forgetting me. I appreciate it, Karen. Today we have a very informative presentation this afternoon. As Karen said, I'm Dan Toder. My company's name is Hatchbaum McDonald, and I represent the LSRPA. I sit on the Board of Trustees, and I am the chairman of the committee that takes care of continuing education for the LSRPA. And as Karen said, we always have some goodies in the room for you, some refreshments. Sorry, guys on the webinar, you're out of luck. You don't get the refreshments, but you get to stay in your offices and don't have to get in the car. But anyway, I would like to thank our sponsors who provide those refreshments. Just quickly, let me mention them: Accutest Laboratories, Alpha Analytical, Aqua Protect Labs, AWT Environmental Services, DeMaximus Data Management Solutions, East Coast Drilling. We have a lot of sponsors, which is good. EnviroProbe Services, Enviro Solutions, EST Associates, Giordano, Halloran and Ciesla, Attorneys at Law, Hampton Clark Veritech Labs, HEP Pure Technologies, Integrated Analytical Laboratories, North Star Environmental Services, Riker Danzig, Attorneys at Law, Borba Surveying Mapping, Val Signal Group, they're an insurance company, and Summit Drilling. Yes, that's all of them. I just want to let you know from the LSRPA, what we're doing and what we're planning through the rest of this year. And here's our schedule. On the 6th, we had our LSRP exam review training. Some of the LSRPs have already taken their tests. There's another one coming up on September 24th. And I'm proud to say that in the first go-around on the test, 93% of the people who took that review course passed the test. So we're enjoying a good reputation from that course. We have an ethics course. All LSRPs that are licensed and will renew their license in 3 years from now will need to have an ethics course under their belts. We're holding it at the Burlington County College. It's worth 7 continuing education credits for LSRPs, and the course goes all day long. So, and it's on the lsrpa.org website. You can register for that right now. October 30th, we have our next exam review course. The 3rd exam is in November sometime. I'm not sure of the date. December 5th, we're going to have a business practice seminar for LSRPs that are concerned about liability and insurance coverage and contract language should attend that course. I think we're all worried about these things. And then into the new year, we have another exam review course because there's another exam in January. And we have our annual meeting January 10th of next year. So we have a pretty full schedule, and we're just trying to cram it all in. Thanks for your attention. Enjoy the session. I know you'll get a lot out of it. And thanks for your support of the LSRPA.
Okay, excuse my back. I'm going to kind of stand at an angle here. Good. 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 Okay. My name is Andy Gary. I'm with the Bureau of Information Services, and I'm going to talk a little bit today about data mining. How many folks here are LSRPs? Okay. How many folks here have been to the tech rule training or the ARC rule training? Okay, so I can't tell the same jokes as I did last time. Okay. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so take a look at this slide. Come on, that's funny. The guy's head just blew up. Tough crowd. Pretend it's somebody you know. Actually, there's 2 reasons why I put this up. One is because I'm a Dilbert fan, but the other is just to ask you if you can see. Some of the font in my presentation gets a little bit small. If you can't see this, you might not be able to see some of the font that's coming up, but we have the handouts there for you to refer to help you see what I'm talking about. Okay, next slide. Okay, this is the SRP webpage. This is how you would access Data Miner. The address is up there on the top. Down along the left-hand side, first let me point your attention to SRP contacts. If you have any questions about license information, if you have any questions about rules or statutes, any technical questions, you can click on that SRP contact button. It'll give you the best person to talk to. It'll give you their name, their email address, their telephone number. So if you have questions, if in some of these reports, if you see data that's not correct, or once you go back to your office, if you see data that's not correct, you can click on that SRP contact button. It'll tell you who to get in touch with. Okay? And next slide, please. Just to make that a little bit bigger so everybody can see, our website has so much information about forms and guidance and the known contaminated site report rules. Today I'm going to talk about SRP data. Next slide, please. If you were to click on SRP data, what you would see is this screen here. Okay. We call the top line there, the site remediation data minor reports, we call that a category. The lines below it are subcategories. Within each subcategory is a list of reports pertaining to that subcategory. So you could click on, say, licensed site remedial professional information. Next slide. And you would see a page that looks something like this. Okay. On the top there, you see the site remediation, and it tells you a little bit about site remediation. Tells you what we're trying to accomplish. Talks a little bit about data mining, what data miner does. Tells you a little bit about what data miner doesn't do. The CYAs are always important. It's good to know what it doesn't do. And then it goes down the line with the licensed site remedial professional information coming up next. Okay? And here it tells you a little bit about SARA and a little bit about some of the reports that are included. Now, if you were to click on that bottom line, not on the top one where the red arrow is pointing to, but the link is actually the bottom line by the green arrow, you can click on that and you get a list of the LSRP reports for that subcategory. Now, always notice that underneath each report is a little bit about that report. Okay? So this report, the one that I'm going to look at today, or that we're going to look at today, is the licensed site professional comprehensive report. And this report tells you a little bit about the documents that were received by an LSRP, from an LSRP, by SRP, and some of the reports that are assigned to that LSRP according to SRP. Okay? So if you were to click on that heading, and you were to enter the LSRP's license number, in this case, the LSRP's license number, and click OK, and you would get this screen. For folks that are familiar with Data Miner, they're probably very familiar with this screen. Okay? Actually, I kind of like this screen because it gives me the opportunity to go get a cup of coffee, bagel, and come back before the report is ready to look at. But actually, what's happening here is that Data Miner actually goes to NGEMS or master file, these are the SRP databases, and pulls that data for you when you click on the report that you want to run. Okay? So if something was entered into NGEMS an hour ago and you were to pick a report now, that information that was entered an hour ago would be included in that report. Okay? It's really kind of amazing, not that long ago, the KCS&J report. We used to produce that twice a year and distribute it to the public via libraries. Now you can get a report in a few minutes in the comfort of your office or your family room, or if you have a laptop, poolside. We've come a long way in a relatively short time. Next slide, please. So if you were to pick that LSRP report, you would see this screen. It'll tell you who the LSRP is for the license number that you picked. And it'll tell you the active license number, which is the current license number, and the inactive one, which links back to folks that were temporary LSRPs. You could enter either license number in that previous screen, and you'd still get the results on this report. Okay? Can you go to the next slide, please? Just to expand that, to zoom in on that report a little bit, you can see the information that it has. Now, this is documents that were submitted to SRP, and this is where SRP is in the process. Okay? So you might have had the inspection completed, maybe you had the review completed, maybe not. General review is just kind of making sure everything is there. A component review is, say if a CEA is included, or deed notice is included, or maybe the sediment is contaminated with dioxin, or arsenic, or mercury, or PCBs. In other words, like a little red flag goes up. So we might have a component review there. And the comprehensive reviews, that's sort of like the old case manager review where they look at everything. Not all documents get all the different types of reviews. Some things, like I think childcare always gets a comprehensive review, but that's not always the case for every document. Next slide. And this would just be paging down a little bit. Now these are the projects that are assigned to the LSRP or the licensee, meaning that on the right there you can see that there's a retention start date. And notice these numbers too, like the PI number, the activity number, the case tracking number. These are internal numbers, unique identifiers that are going to be important to folks here in the SRP. So if you're calling in, you wanted to know some information on a case that you're working for, and they ask you, oh, what's the PI number? There it is. Okay. Next slide. Okay. So I thought we'd look at 4 reports just to give you a kind of an overview about how data miner works. So this next report that we're going to look at is the site search report. Okay. Again, you can read something about the site search report before you actually go there. When you're ready to go there, you click on that link there by the green arrow. And it's going to give you a list of all the reports that are in the site search report category. Okay? In this case, there's only 3. A lot of the subcategories have more than 3. I selected the select by PI number site search report. Okay? So we could go to the next slide, and you would enter the PI number here, and hit OK, and next slide, and here's that annoying bar again. We could wait for a while for the next slide to come up. Oh, no, go back. I didn't. Oh, there goes my joke right there. I was going to say, 2 LSRPs walk into a bar, right? But no, the reason why I put this up here is to remind myself that data miner is actually and LSRPs I'm talking to now, or other folks that work for LSRPs, is your window to SRP. Okay, this should be the first place you go to look for how your stuff is doing, how your cases are doing. Not so much what you should be doing. I mean, you know what you should be doing, but to make sure that you and SRP are on the same page. Okay, and data quality is important too. And data quality starts with you guys. When you fill out those forms and you send them into SRP, that's where the data stream begins. And we take that information, we put it into NGEMS or master file, and then data miner goes to those databases to get the results you see here. So data quality begins at the beginning, and it's important to just try to keep those forms as accurate as possible. Next screen, please. So we had picked the PI number for a site, and now you get the information here. It looks like some basic information here, just name, address, municipality. But if you were to click on the site detail button and go to the next screen, then you would get some additional information like name, address, and basic information. But if you were to click on that case oversight button, then you get a lot more information. Okay? You can see what bureau the case is in, what the case status is, when that case status began, case status date, confirmed contamination, yes or no, LSRP name, that was something that was added recently for LSRP request. and LSRP phone number, next billing date. So you start to get a lot more, you can see as you drill down further and further, you start to get a lot more information about that case. Now, if you were to click on activity tracking, you would actually get a list of all the activities that have been completed so far, okay? So within just a few clicks, you went from some basic locational information to a day-by-day list of tasks of what's occurring at that case. Okay? Next slide.
How can you have an RAO and still have an outstanding report?
Can you go back one? You can have more than one RAO at a case, so that's probably under a different activity. You can have more than one activity at a case. That RAO might be for a unrestricted use activity that's just part of that case. That would be my guess. Okay. And then I thought we would take a look at case tracking reports. This is a new category, or subcategory, I should say. And this category enables the requester to find upcoming and past due tasks associated with a case. Okay, so let's take a look at that report. You notice again, there's a list of reports here. Notice at the bottom, cases with no LSRPs. Oh, I saw a few heads pop up when I said that. If you, like me, maybe you just paid a college tuition bill for $20,000, you might want to look at that and see what cases don't have LSRPs. But we're looking at today the case tracking tool by LSRP, the top one. And again, you would need a license number. This is kind of an effort to keep, a little bit of privacy, to respect your privacy a little bit. So you'd need to know the license number. You would enter the license number here. Hit OK. And a little bit about what data miner does and doesn't do again here. And next slide. And now this will, by PI number, it'll show you all the tasks that are due. Okay, past tasks and future tasks, not tasks that are completed, but tasks that are due. Okay. Again, you look at this to see if you and SRP are on the same page. There's some tasks that aren't included here. There's some tasks that will be added in the future. But it's a good outline. It's a good outline. Yes.
Excuse the interruption, folks, but if anyone owns a car, a brown Saab, New Jersey plates, PTH80P, they're asking you to move your vehicle, otherwise it's going to be towed. Sorry for the interruption.
Okay. Brown Saab. Anybody? Okay, next slide. And one more report I thought we'd look at. This report is in the general reports category. Okay. Click on the green arrow. And this is the XY well search report. Okay. This kind of had its roots in electronic data deliverables. Anybody familiar with that? Anybody have used that recently? There's some new information out there. How's it been working for you? That's the 7. Any comments? The new EDD format? Any comments? The new EDI manual. I wrote that. Any comments?
It was great.
Thank you. Thank you. The web page, we also updated the web page. So this report had its roots there, and if you go to the next screen. In the new EDD format, what we're asking for is a well permit number. We used to just use a field ID name, I think we called it, and you could have named that MW1 or MW space 1 or MW-1. And what we found that over time, the MW1s might become MW space 1s or MW-1s or MWO1s. And that's clear to a human, but if you try to report on something like that, you tend to lose some information unless you can think of all the possibilities of what that well name might be. So we decided to go with well permit number. It's a unique identifier that they use in water allocation. And we thought, well, maybe everybody might not know what the well permit number is for their different wells, so we put together this report. If you know the coordinates of the site, or coordinates of the well, or the coordinates of the block, I guess, or where you think your well is near, you can put these coordinates in these fields here. You can select the radius of a half a mile, 1 mile, or I think now a quarter mile, and you press OK. And you get this well search report, okay? So it has a list of all the well numbers down in that first column there based on the radius that you entered. So if that well is inside that circle, inside that buffer, we're going to get it included here. And we also included other information like block and lot, street, to help you identify the well that you're looking for. Once you're sure that the well that you're looking for is the one there, you take that well permit number and you use it when you submit your EDDs. Okay? Next slide. And just in case you didn't know, you can take a report like that XY well search report or any data miner report, and you can copy and paste that into Excel. Okay, just by using the mouse and just highlighting all the different cells, copy and paste. Once you drop it into Excel, then that gives you the opportunity or the ability to sort on any of the columns that you want to sort on. If you wanted to sort it by municipality, you could do that. If you wanted to add columns for comments that you would enter, you could do that. If you wanted to delete rows that you're not interested in and only keep the rows that you are interested in, you could do that. So sometimes it's helpful to take a report that's a little large, dump it into Excel to make it a little bit more manageable for you. Next slide. Okay. Now, some of you might have noticed that we went to SRP data, but at the bottom of that list is data miner. Well, SRP data just takes you to SRP data miner reports. Okay. We put that up there because it saves you a few clicks. You can get to the SRP data miner reports a little bit quicker. But if you are interested in different programs, air or water, you can go to Data Miner at the bottom there, click there, and this screen will come up. Okay, we'll go over on the right there and click the button that says Launch DEP Data Miner, and you get a little bit of a different screen. If you were to click on Reports to Category, that would take you back to a list of all the categories, like water, air, site remediation. Okay? And I wanted to mention the buttons across the top there. Help is a glossary. Report search brings you back to this screen. Reports by category would bring you to the list of categories, water, site remediation, air. Site search brings you back to this screen. And you might have noticed another button that was on one of the previous screens that says Revise Search. That button would bring you back to the prompt window. You usually see that button, Revise Search, after a prompt window. And if you make a mistake, you just hit that button. Don't start over again. Just hit that button. It takes you back to the prompt screen. Okay. So if you wanted to know sites by location, regardless of whether they're site remediation or other programs, you could go here. Put in the county, put in the municipality or the zip code, press the green arrow, and you get a list of sites by municipality. And then just paging down a little bit, Next slide. There's other ways that you can do searches as well. You could do it by site name. You could do it by site ID number. You could do it by keyword. Keyword being within the report title. Okay. So if you entered case tracking there and you hit the little green arrow, it would take you to the SRP case tracking reports, for example. So next slide. So you can just enter the information, say in the company name, or enter the program interest ID, or the report name. But what I did here was I ran the company name report, the top one. Next slide. And you see all the different, you see TriPOC come up, all the different locations. And say you're interested in the one in Flemington, you could pick that one, click on the list of PIs. Now, you can have, you can go ahead to the next slide. Click on the list of PIs, and it's going to give you a list of all the programs that have PIs at that site. And what I mean by that is that a site, a contaminated site, you can have many programs interested in that site, right? Doesn't necessarily have to be just SRP. Air might have an interest. Hazardous waste generators might have an interest. Pollution prevention might have an interest, okay? So we call those program interest IDs, and that's the ones on the left there. And from here, so you can see, first let me say, across that top row there, you can sort these different lists by name or by municipality, by street address, and then you can also see the types there, okay? So let's say we're going to pick site remediation, and from that little drop down on the right there, you could pick SRP site detail, and next screen, and we're back at the site detail report, okay? So it's just another way to kind of construct a query and get information from different programs as well as site remediation. Okay? So we made a full circle. We're back here at the site detail report. Does anybody have any questions that I can answer?
I had one question on that with the TriPOC. I noticed it had a typo in there with the address and all that. Is there an easy way to fix typographical error like that?
Okay.
Make an announcement that we need to.
Okay. Okay. If you have a question, if you could come up to the mic so the folks on the webinar can hear you. But you can, for this time, the question was, what if there are data that are incorrect? If you see a mistake on your report, you can go back to the SRP website, click on that SRP contacts button, go down and get the email address or telephone number of Kristen Poynton Hahn, and her folks do a lot of the data entry, and they can go into the databases and fix the data so that it shows correctly in the reports. Any other questions? Yes?
You explained very well how the LSRPs could use data miner to check the status and make sure they're on the same
thank you.
page. Another reason that people use data miner is to find out what's going on with the history of the property that they may or may not be involved in for due diligence purposes or because it might be adjacent to a site they're working on. When the change went so that the LSRPs were listed, which is very useful information, that history of when other documents were submitted seems to have been lost. Is there any way to, that was such useful information.
As far as data miner goes, except for some information that you might be able to get out of activity tracking, I'm not sure how much help that would be for you for past. I know that you could always do a file review. If that would be helpful to you, you can get in contact with Oprah. They have to get you that information within 7 days. You can come in to the DP to review it.
And Oprah's wonderful, and if you're going to take that step, but it also is useful to know that in 2003, a preliminary assessment was was put in, and there was a site investigation done, and a remedial investigation done. That used information, and what dates they were submitted was previously available until very recently on Data Miner.
Right.
And the shift went to listing the LSRP. The only activity documents that are listed is what the LSRP submitted, nothing for the history.
I'm going to pass the buck to Ian. Ian, do you know if there's any data miner reports in the works for something that actually would tell you if PIs were done, or RIs were done, SIs were done in the past?
A lot of that information would probably be tracked under the 3 LSRP case,
Right.
so it'd be very difficult to pull it in
Right.
from that old into a new case that was
If you couldn't hear, we had like a big shift in the way we tracked data when we went from case managers to LSRPs. And to create a report on that data and post it on Data Miner, we don't have any plans to do that in the future. If you wanted to give me your name, I could get in touch with you via email, talk to some of the report writers, see if there are any ideas out there. But right now it might look like a file review would be the way to go. Do I pick? Sir?
Just following up on that point, whether or not that information used to be in there, I noticed the disclaimer on your first slide, this is not to be relied upon for due diligence.
That's true. That's true. Sana? Slide 43. I think, Sana, you're going to have to come up to a microphone.
Again, can you get to slide 43 to be more of
Oh, okay.
So if you clicked on,
Site detail?
or even case oversight in Finder, you can't, 'cause it's probably a screenshot,
Mhm.
but wouldn't that give you the information? For what? Okay. Maybe I'll go back to you, because I feel like I saw that recently, and I think I answered that.
Yeah. Get in touch with me. My name, my email address is there, and I'll look around. I'll talk to our community relations people. I'll talk to some of the report writers, and you're interested in sort of like a history, a full history of cases, including pre-LSRP information on the different phases as well. Any other questions? How do I do that?
You can see right behind
Oh. Cool. Using the XY permit search, if a well you know exists does not come back in the return, how would you proceed to search for that permit number? My first thought would be, if that well does not come up in the report, it's probably because the coordinates are off more than the buffer that you picked. I'd up the buffer to the largest possible radius, which is in 1 mile, and run that report again. If it still doesn't come up, I try to find out what the XY coordinates are of that well that you're looking for from your well records or your well permit. Okay. Are we required to obtain manual well searches for the well search, or just conduct well searches on Data Miner? Are we required to obtain a manual? Oh no, not for the EDDs. Not for the EDDs. If you need a well permit to put in your EDD, and you can find that well permit number on Data Miner, that's why it's there. That's all you need to do. Why do you get different fields for different types of well searches? For example, you can get well name for a block and lot search, but not for an XY search. Susan, I'm not sure. I'm not sure why you would get different information.
I can tell you.
Maybe Nick can tell us why.
We can only speak to the XY search, not the other searches, because I wasn't involved with the design of that report. But with the XY search, when it was all about receptors, we didn't really care about a name. It was more about a permit number, an address, and those fields. So it's based on the design of the report's based on what you're using it for. Looks like the XY well search has now been turned towards a different use, where that well name might be very useful, and why it's not in there, I can't speak to that. I can only tell you why XY well search was designed the way we designed it.
Thanks. No, I was just thinking, but, yeah, Nick is going to talk more about well searches next, so, I'm sure he'll have some more information on well searches than just this EDD report. Using the LSRP tool to look at your sites and timeframes, not all of the sites are listed and not all of the timeframes. Is there a reason for the sites that are listed and the sites that are not? Yeah, some of those timeframes, some of those reports, those case type reports, we're still shaking that out a little bit. That's why when I had said always check what data miner doesn't do as well as what data miner does do. Not all of the timeframes are included in some of those case tracking reports, especially if there's dependencies between the different steps. You might only see the first step and not the one that was dependent on it, for example. If you discover what you believe to be an error in the LSRP case tracking, for example, DEP identifies that's, how do you correct that? Again, that would be go to SRP contacts on the SRP webpage, get in contact with Kirsten, point in Hearn, and let her know that you see a data error in the report. When will well records be available to be viewed on data miner? That's not electronic data. Those well records would have to be scanned. We have a little bit of a resource problem there. I don't know when that date will be.
Andy, we take some questions from the audience, please?
Yes. Hi.
Thank you for the presentation, by the way.
You're welcome.
In regard to the well searches, is there a way to directly search for a specific permit number? Not using...
I believe there is, not in site remediation data miner, but if you go to the water allocation data miner page, I think you can put in a well permit number and get information on that well permit.
All right, thanks. Good work.
Any other questions from the audience? Do I have time to continue, Karen?
One more, and then we're going to...
Okay, I'll take one more. Are all the well permits that NJDEP has available through data miner? Are all well permits that NJDEP has available through data miner? I can't say yes to that. I can't say yes, everything that we've ever had is up on data miner. I think that would be a little bit of a risk on our part. I know that SRP has a pretty comprehensive report, and water allocation has a lot of reports up on data miner. But I can't say all. Never say all. Okay?
I think we're going to have to cut this.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to cut this short now. We have two other speakers, and actually three other speakers, and only a limited amount of time. So, thank you, and good luck.
Thanks, Andy. Okay. If we can move on, we're going to move on to Tyrone Jordan from Bureau of Information Technology, and he's going to give us an overview of the DP online services on a whole host of topics. Jordan?
Okay. Good afternoon. I'm here today to introduce you to the Regulatory Services Portal through NJDEP Online. The first service that we will cover today will be for the retention or dismissal of an LSRP online. And the second service will be, which is labeled Remediation Fee Assessment and Payment, will allow you to calculate fees for the site that you're remediating and submit payments online. Why is this important as an LSRP? Why is this important to you? According to the ARCS Rule 7:26C, 1.6C, it states that within 90 days of DEP publishing a notice in the New Jersey Register, and when that electronic portal becomes open, documents will be required to be submitted online. Not all services are available at this time. These two services that we will be covering today, that will be encompassed in that requirement. Why is this important to the department, to the DEP? Well, we're not all altruistic here. These two systems will gain importance as the quantity of information flows into the department. And by us spending time together today, we can, working through this initially, we can improve the quality of data that comes into the department as well. So today, I'll be providing an overview on how to navigate through the system so that when you attempt to do this service online by yourselves, you'll have a level of comfort with what you see because you've already seen the screenshots here today. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so when you go to the first screen, you'll log in at the following URL, which has been highlighted at the top of the screen. There are two ways that you can log into the system. The first, the one way, if you're already a registered user, is to log in by clicking the login button on the right. But if you're new to the system, you will click the login button on the left. And so the procedure that I'm going to go through with you today will be for the procedure on the left. You're a new user, but you already have a My New Jersey account, which I hope you all have. Next slide, please. After clicking on New User, it'll bring you to the My New Jersey page. Next slide. You'll log in, and you'll come to this message page. The messages page basically talks about, gives you browser specifications. So we've had some calls to come in already where some people were having some issues, but later we found out that their browser was not up to date. So make sure that your browser is listed on the screen or is higher, or a higher version, or you have a higher version. Next, please. Okay. Now you'll come into the screen which is entitled My Workspace. The thing I want to start with right now is we're going to do two services before we go through the flow of the service. It's kind of like prepping before you actually do the cooking. So we're going to, right now we're going to, let's say, chop our onions. So we're going to configure services first, and then after that, we're going to chop our green peppers. We're going to add a facility. Once we do these two things, we'll be able to go straight through the service without having to jump in and out of the jump around. And with that, you might find that with configure services, you'll only have to do it one time. But when you go to add a facility, you might find that when you're going to the service by yourselves and you have some familiarity with the service, you'll be able to add it on the fly without having to add everything in the beginning. Okay? Next slide, please. Okay, now that you've clicked the Configure Services button, you'll get a list of the services that you want to appear on your screen. I've chosen the LSRP related services, right where we see the red arrow. Also, I've included Remediation Priority System, which is another service, but we're not going to discuss that today. LSRP related services is what you want. Next screen, please. The next screen you'll come to will be LSRP related services. Next screen, please. And now we're going to add facilities. So, let's say, next screen, please. Here's your chance to add a facility. First, next screen. First, you would choose site remediation. And in this case, I need the PI number. So I'm going to do a search for the PI number. I chose randomly 513426. Okay.
So the ID is PI number.
Thank you very much. Thank you for saying that. Next screen, please. Once you enter that, you come up with One Brace Road. That's the facility name. And can you go back a slide, please? You could also do it by facility name if you don't know the PI number. In this case, that's the PI number that I wanted. Next screen, please. This is your chance to add the selected facilities. Next screen. And now we're ready to begin the service, now that all the prep work has been complete. So you've configured the services. Now LSRP related services shows up, which would have shown up before. And you have a facility, One Brace Road, which was not previously there before. Let's begin. Next screen. Okay, now you have the choice above, which is LSRP notification of retention or dismissal. If you were to click on the blue hyperlink, you would get a definition of what you would see, and rules would follow. But we're going to, in this case, click the radio button so we can proceed through the service, and we'll click continue. Next screen. Now, what I would like to highlight before I talk to you about the screen beneath is the mini navigational bar on the left. I don't know if you ever had a personal trainer and they keep telling you, one more, and then 10 more later you realize it wasn't just one more. This mini navigational screen on the left tells you where you are in the service. As you can see in the blue, that's where you've been. We've already seen the instructions page. That's where we've been. Next screen. Currently where you see the white bar, number 2, submission name, that's where you currently are. Next screen. And number 3, the gray area, that's where you're headed to. That's where you are going to go. Before we go to the next screen, beneath the screen is the submission name. On this first field, it is automatically populated as LSRP retention or dismissal. So if you're doing retention, we ask that you backspace out dismissal. If you're doing a dismissal, we ask you to delete retention. And you can add comments below in the comments field, and this will give you information which you'll see later in the summary page, which will help you to recognize this submission. Next screen, please. Okay, there are several submission types with this service. When you click on the blue links, can you go to, first, there's retention, there's release, there's retention regulated US closures, release regulated US closures, retention child care licensing, and release child care licensing. When you click on the blue hyperlinks, you'll get a definition of when you should use each submission type. For example, when you were to go to, let's go to retention regulated underground storage tank closures, use this service. If you were retained for the closure of a regulated UST only, use the regular retention if there has already been a discharge or trigger and you're hired for other areas of concern. So if you have any questions before making your decision, making your choices, select the blue hyperlinks for a definition. Next screen.
Where you go, UHOT required early that you could be an LSRP and close out a unregulated tank.
Right.
And then 4 weeks later, they said you can't do it that way. What happens to those 4 weeks worth of LSRP retentions for UHOT? Which one of those did you choose?
I'm going to direct you to Chris and Pointer Han on that because this service is not for UHOT. It's not built for UHOTs. It was built specifically for regular retention, dismissal.
When they first started LSRP,
Right.
they were allowed to do unregulated tanks.
Right.
To write an RAO, and then you changed your mind. So now there's all these LSRPs who have unregulated tanks that are trying to get out and say, you know, you're not going to let me submit an RAO anyway.
Right. I'm going to get your address and I'm going to give you contact information, email contact information with regards to that question. Okay. Next screen, please. Okay, this is your opportunity to select a facility. Please note at this time that the service only allows you to select one facility at this time. So you will not be able to select multiple facilities at this time. So we put that notice above to caveat that and to inform you about that. Next screen, please. And please put a check in the box to select that. Here's where you select the case or the activity. In this instance, we put a check in the box for IEC, vapor intrusion concerns, and we also put a check in the box for LSRP new case. You click continue. Next screen, please. Okay. This is an important screen. This is the contact screen. If you'll notice in the top portion of the page, you'll see two tabs. The first tab is responsible entity. The second tab is retained by. So the information will need to be completed for both tabs before you can move on to the next screen. If you click the next screen, please. Here's where the information has been entered into the system. Anytime you see an asterisk, the information is required. At least one phone number is required. And an important time-saving feature that I'd like to introduce you to would be to click in the Save to My Favorites box at the top right of the page. You click Save, and that will save your information in the system, so you won't have to enter it each time you go into the system. Next screen, please. Okay, now you're on tab 2, Retained By. You enter your information there. The next time you come into the system, you can use the drop box at the top left, and it will pull down it will populate with the information that you previously entered when you saved it. Next screen, please. Okay. Now, you have the LSRP retention details. Here's where you enter the date that you were retained, your hired to address, which would be entire site versus specific areas of concern, and in the grid beneath, that's your opportunity to enter the total number of known contaminated areas of concern associated with the site and the total number of contaminated areas of concerns that you as the LSRP will be addressing. You click continue, that will bring you to the next screen. And this will be the opportunity to certify. But before you certify, in the first few times that you go to the system, we ask that you click on the button where it says Creation Date View. You click on that button. Next screen, please. And you can go through all the summary details that you just entered. So you can check out the submission name, LSRP retention, the facility profile, the case information, so on and so forth. Make sure that is correct, because when you go back to the next screen please. That's the AOCs that we entered. Next screen please. When you go back to the next screen where you certify, you're certifying that everything, I believe the information provided in this document is true, accurate, and complete. And so when you click that button, you enter your PIN and click certify, that you won't have an opportunity to go back and change that information. So that's why I'm saying the first few times that you go through the system to do it this way. After you get familiar with the system, then, you can feel free to click certify, but you won't have the opportunity to change that information once you enter. Next screen, please. After certifying, again, you'll see the summary page. You'll see a printer-friendly button at the top right. Next screen. More details. That's your contact information. Name, responsible entity retained by e-submitter. Next screen. Retention release details, and another reminder that you're certifying this document. You click return. And next screen. And that concludes that service. So are there any questions regarding how to navigate through the system? Just wanted you to kind of see the screenshot here in the beginning, so then that way when you go through the system, you can say, yes, I've seen this before. I know what to do. Okay. All right.
All the LSRP features are active right now?
Yes, those. Thank you very much.
Okay. So
okay.
Going forward tomorrow, I get retained. I do it electronically, or I do it on paper?
You can do it electronically.
That's it. You don't have to do paper.
Yes, you can do it electronically. Right. This is what we're trying to do. We're trying to introduce this service today because as moving forward, there are going to be more and more online submissions, and it's going to be a requirement. So yes, you can do it online. Yes.
Specifically retention, which not available today.
Did you speak up? Oh, thank you.
Yeah, retention is not available today, but we're hoping that retention will be available in the next few days.
Okay.
But the online submission available right now is the annual remediation fee form.
Okay.
Tanks, right? All the tank submissions are available right now.
But going forward, whenever that day comes, a week from now, whatever the hell it is.
Right.
Going forward, it will be electronic after that, no more paper.
The services will be rolled in probably one or two at a time because of the development process. So
Do the retention electronically if I need to submit a paper.
oh, sorry, no, absolutely not.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Next. Oh, I'm sorry. I can see your hand.
On the retention form that we send in, the responsible entity is normally the person that's responsible for the site. Here you've got the responsible entity and the retained by, and there's no information as to who the responsible party is.
Right.
So does that mean we have to connect to another program to put that in?
No, we put retained by because not every case the person that's retaining the LSRP is the responsible entity, so that's why we entered that there. With regard to your question, there is an opportunity. I think, are there additional contacts? Yes. Okay, just one more. Okay.
The question is, it's been added responsible party, implementation on the LSRP program.
With the implementation of the LSRP program, I believe that now, you'll see a responsible entity as opposed to a responsible party.
Right.
Does that answer your question?
No.
Okay.
No, because on this form, it's not the same form and the information that we're submitting to the DEP now. Because we have a signature of a person that is the party that is responsible with an address, a phone number.
Right, you have, you'll be entering the responsible entity information, but you'll be keeping their signature in your files. That they can, that you're responsible for submitting that for them.
So we have,
So keep their authorization on file that you can submit for them.
yeah, do it by paper.
Okay. Okay. Are there any other questions? Okay. Okay, next slide. Now we're going to cover the remediation fee and assessment payment. Okay. Next slide. You're already logged in. This is going to move somewhat quicker. You've already logged in, and again, you're going to select the LSRP related services button. Okay. Once you click that button, this time you'll click the lower blue link, which reads Remediation Fee and Assessment Payment. Next slide. You'll come to the instructions page, basically explaining, giving you instructions. There's a PDF document that you can view, and it explains that your facility will have a facility ID, an original case tracking number, and that can be found in your acknowledgement letters prior to continuing with the service. Next screen, please. When you come to the facility selection screen, the facility will appear, and you will click the radio button on the left to select that facility, and then click Continue. Next screen, please. Next, you'll come to case selection. You'll select the case or the activity associated with the facility.
The case tracking number is PI number again?
Yes. Thank you for asking that. That's my plant, if you didn't know. Next. The case tracking number, that's a unique number. I'm sorry. Is there a, next screen. The case tracking number, that's a unique number. That's for the department's purposes. PI ID number, that is the preferred ID number that you've been accustomed to seeing. And non-initial lets you know that there's been a bill paid already previously. And then in parentheses, you see one base row, that's the name of the facility. So that submission project name actually contains a lot of information for us. Next screen, please. Now you'll come to one tab this time, which will be the fees billing contact. And you'll enter the fees billing contact. And again, phone number is required. Anytime you see an asterisk, that information is required. You can also save that information if you so desire. Please click Continue. Next screen, please. Now you come to the remediation fee details page. As you can see, since I stated earlier that this is non-initial, you can see that the date remediation initiated is kind of grayed out. And it has information regarding the last bill date was 8/10/2012, next bill date June 11, 2013. Next screen, please. You'll come to, this is still on the same screen. PowerPoint just wouldn't let me show everything on one screen. This is your opportunity to enter your applicable category. So in the fields to the right, you can enter, for example, the number of contaminated areas of concern. Then the next fields contain information where you can enter the contaminated media or not. Then there's fields for annual remediation fee, which will do the calculations once you enter into those numbers. So let's say you have 3 contaminated areas of concern. There's contaminated groundwater on site. There's contaminated sediment on site. So let's say, I hear people calculating in the front here. So for each category, we see the totals, the subtotals, And then the subtotals are added up, and you get the total fee assessed. You click Continue, please. Next screen. And here is your opportunity to certify. Next screen. And once you certify again, you'll get the summary details, and it'll contain the service information, facility profile, case information, and fees assessed. So, so again, that's a Twitter-friendly version for you there as well, if you click on the button. So are there any questions with this service? So that's the overview for annual remediation fees.
Should we have to do that since it's money?
Well,
Or do I mark it up 20%?
I see we have these fees that we're calculating and going to give a credit card to. Isn't it more appropriate for the owner to fill out that portion of the information and give them his credit card?
That's another good question. With this service, the owner does have the opportunity to log in. So, for instance, you as the LSRP, you've gone through the service, you've put the number of areas of contaminated area concerns and areas of concern, the contaminated media, so on and so forth. The fees have been assessed, calculated and assessed. The responsible entity has the opportunity to log in and make a payment. So they can log in, do e-check or credit card, and make a payment. So that opportunity is available. Yes. Could we have a microphone? Microphone, please. Nick, to Scott.
The LSRP also can click Bill Me Later, and the bill will go out to the responsible entity, to the fees billing contact that was entered in the service. So the LSRP can set it all up and then just click Bill Me Later, and the client will get the bill. And if the clients are extremely interested in being involved, the clients can also do the entire service. Then the LSRP can log in, add that facility to their profile. The LSRP can click a certifications tab in DP Online, and the service will be there. They can view it and they can certify it. Then they can click Bill Me Later, and the client can pay it. So there's really a lot of flexibility in these services to allow the clients to be as involved or as hands-off as they want to be. We haven't gone into it yet, but clients can also lock down their facilities and grant LSRPs rights to run services at their facilities and allow no one else to even access it. So it's going to make it more difficult for you to do that. We haven't really gone into that, but I just wanted to mention that. And like as Tyrone said, clients can also log in and click our payments tab and pay at the end if they want to pay right on the spot, as opposed to being billed or giving the LSRP their either credit card or e-check information if they don't want to receive a bill. So there's a lot of flexibility, and if you read the directions, it does go into some of that flexibility for you.
Yes. Okay. All right. If there are no more questions, one more question. Gary.
Hello.
Hi.
Folks, I just want to relate, my name's Gary Chalk. I'm in the Office of Direct Billing and Cost Recovery, so if you've had a lot of questions on your fees, they came to my office. And I just want to point out, on the fees, while I have a group in the room, the rule changed as of May 7th. Your first fees are due 45 days after the LSRP has been retained at the facility. If you return your fees in after that and you get a bill from us for your first fees, you're basically out of compliance. So I wanted to make that clear to everybody. You can use the portal now to get in there quickly. And if you don't know what's going on at your site, I would suggest you pay the 0 to 1 to 450 and have something in the system that you've paid your fees. You've covered yourself basically for the first year. However, if we know what's going on at the facility, because it's been in there a number of years, we know there's groundwater and a number of areas concerned, case managers have, through a data cleanup effort, put that information in NJDEP. So it is up to you. You can go into the form here and get the case set up properly so that bills go out correctly. And another point I wanted to make while I'm having is that this form is only submitted one time. If nothing changes at your facility, you don't need to do this every year. This is not a yearly form. This is to change your fee based on if you close out all the soil issues at your site, or you had groundwater and you've cleaned up the groundwater and there's something left over. This form allows you to change the fee. So from year to year, if nothing's changed and you're in a 5 or 6 year cleanup, you have two categories. Category 2, like 2 to 10 areas of concern and groundwater, your fee would be $2,300 every year that you'll be invoiced for. But if something changes, the rule states you've got to update the form, and the next bill would go out correctly. So if you reduce your number of areas of concern, your bill would go down. And if you find something else that's going on at the facility, it's up to you guys. It's strictly stated in the rule that you need to change the form so a fee goes out. The rule also states that if you submit an RAO at the end of you've been in the system 5 years and you've been paying $450 every year, and your RAO comes in, and it's taken us that long to catch it, and you have groundwater and 3 or 4 areas of concern, we're going to go back in and back bill you for all those years, and you're also going to be penalties associated with that. That's all I have for now.
Thank you, Gary. Okay. All right.
Any other questions?
If you've already completed the manual form and you've submitted your fees, you're responsible to enter all that into the system so it's correct when we go on to this system?
No, if you've already submitted the paper form and have been paid your first fee, our system would show that. And I believe if you go into one of these data mine reports, they'll show you what you have in there. You do not need to go into this portal and change anything at this facility if nothing changes. If you have 20 areas of concern and you knock 10 of them out and you get rid of groundwater, you can jump online, change your fee category, and your next invoice will represent the lower categories and the lower, the removal of the groundwater fee. So this isn't something you have to do yearly. This is to get the categories and immediate fees correct at the facility.
You think she have to repeat that for people?
No, they didn't.
So for the mic, for the webinar people, I'm sorry, the fee submittal form is at the initiation of the case to allow us to make a correct fee calculation. And you submit the form. If everything is correct, if you have a large site, you have 20 areas of concern, your category 3 or 21 areas of concern, and groundwater, you don't need to do anything for any future years unless there's been a change at your facility. The portal is replacing the paper forms. You can do either right now. The future will be portal only. It's to get the bill set up correctly. Because if we don't know what's going on at the site, we'll bill you default fees, which are just a guess of what's going on at the facility. It'll have to be fixed. So, did that answer your question? Yes? Okay.
Thank you. Karen, let me just check, did you say that within 45 days of the retention of LSRP on a new case, fees have to be paid? What about the reality that the LSRP may not have any idea what the circumstances are on that site within 45 days? What are you going to be paying?
That's why I did say that beforehand. I would say as a CIA, because a case had opted in before May 7th, you were given a 270-day time frame, which, with the rule with PA and SIs do it a year, you should know what's going on within 9 months. However, the rule now says 45 days after the retention of an LSRP. So that means many cases will not have any idea what's going on within 45 days. So you should be jumping on the portal, selecting 0 to 1, and that gives you basically a year to get your act together and get the form correct for the next year. So it'll keep you out of trouble. It'll keep you from, compliance people calling you. It'll keep my office from contacting you. If you honestly don't know, the nuance that I said, though, is that this case has been in the system a long time with us, and now an LSRP is running with it, and we know there's groundwater, and it's a large site, refinery, something along those lines, and you come in 0 to 1, I would tend to think that you're going to get a collection on it at some point. So it's professional judgment. You get a brand new case called in, it's a spill, or a new gas station, you know nothing about if there's leaks, you can do the 0 to 1. I mean, that's what it's for.
Tyrone, there's one from the web.
Yes. The question from the web states that please clarify the applicable category checkbox question on page 6 of the online remediation fee form. The question on the form reads, do not check this box if there are contaminated areas of concern other than the regulated underground storage tank systems. So you only want to check this box only when there are any number of COs, contaminated areas of concerns, are in this area. So basically, we would not check this box if you had contaminated areas of concern. I'm saying again? It's not a storage tank, right? So it clarifies that on the fee form. Okay. Any other questions?
Any other questions? Either online, I don't see any more online. Anybody from the audience? Any others for Tyrone?
Okay.
Nope, we are good. Thank you, Tyrone, very much. Okay, folks, at this time we're running just a little ahead, so we'll take our break now for 10 minutes where we come back into this room at 2:30. Again, folks, on the webinar, we'll resume at 2:30, and we're going to start with the well e-search tools. And just so you know, there are some outstanding questions that were from the prior session from the web. We will either address those if we have time at the end, because they were related to well searches, so hopefully Nick has time. If not, your questions will get answered. Even if we run out of time today, we'll get them emailed to Nick, and Nick will get the responses back out to everybody. Thank you, and we'll see you back at 2:30.
Just stay on the podium.
And I'll run around, and thank you.
I have
the second half. Our next presenter is Nick Sedano from the Bureau of Information Technology, and he will be presenting on the well search e-tools that he has put together. Nick?
Hey, Ian, could you go to, I guess, the next slide? There we go. And minimize the whole PowerPoint. All right. So before we get into the well searches, I wanted to start this off with some breaking news. We just completed a GIS parcel tax centroid effort for over 200,000 well permits, and we found 106,000 matches. Some of them for wells that were permitted as early as the 1960s. This is definitely the low-hanging fruit that we got. So that was the easy part, getting these 106,000. There's like 1 million records to get. And the rest of the records are going to be a little more difficult to get our hands on. But we've made a start. And once we complete a QA process on that 106,000, we're going to be talking about serving that out to you. So you'll have the data already matched to a tax parcel centroid. And I'll tell you what, they look good. My expectation is that that process won't take long, so hopefully we'll get the data out to you. I am not sure how yet. So let's watch a very short video to describe the new data, and then we'll move on to the rest of the presentation. That's 1A. There we go.
The state remediation and water supply programs have created a draft tax parcel match layer of potentially potable wells from 106,000 raw permit records in Data Miner. You're looking at a tiny section of that layer. Our initial quality control efforts are encouraging. Here we see that the tax parcel match point also had a physical address of 6 Nicholson Road. When we checked the tax parcel layer, we see that it also had the same address. We consider this a very strong match.
It's a few seconds.
Zooming out and giving a little time for the new points to draw, we can see how the new data compares to the raw data miner points, which we will display here as green points.
And just kill it. Yep, start it right from this. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so remember those green points. They came in as like a grid pattern. And we'll get back to that again. Okay, so let's start this with an acknowledgement of our common mission here, which is that well searches are arguably the most important public health action taken during remediation, and that's why receptor evaluations are at the beginning of the remedial process. And I want to return to that point also in a little bit. 2 years ago, we sought to create an electronic well search that would serve out data faster than the manual process, improve the database permit locations through consultant community efforts, and reduce workload for everybody while maintaining protectiveness. That effort has brought some qualified success. First point would be that Data Miner can serve out electronic permit data in under a minute. As you saw Andy joking a little while ago, doesn't always do that, and we're working on server upgrades and newer software that will better handle the traffic jams that occasionally overwhelm the system, I guess usually in the middle of the day. So users are advised to retry queries on off-peak hours, which I guess is early or late. Second thing is that we've eliminated remedial well types from the reporting process, and also GIS procedures can quickly eliminate other potentially potable wells that were formerly reviewed in the old manual process, and that saves time. Finally, we have eliminated a 2-month-long backlog at water supply, which kept consultants waiting while their 90-day clock ticked away. I know that the new way has its own issues, but this issue of a 2 or longer month wait with water supply is no more.
But for too many of you, the process is still opaque, or worse, seems wasteful to some, and that's why we're here today. In a few minutes, we'll debut 3 tutorial videos that are meant to provide the lacking software, skills, and understandings which are at the heart of frustrations with the new procedure. We'll take on questions at the end of each video. First, I should say, I expect that we actually have 3 audiences today. The first is, and probably the largest group, are consultants without the software or GIS skills needed to complete the new electronic procedures. And the second, which is probably a subset of the first, are consultants who find the permit file location assessment to be wasteful because of the locational inaccuracies in the raw data. The third group, I think, are consultants with good GIS skills who need minor clarifications on procedure. So to the first group, I want to report that I've already tried these videos with people, and they definitely had success with the free software. They quickly acquired the skill sets that were needed, and they had better understandings of the procedure. And more importantly, it got through a lot of the work that was taking them just so much time. So that was really good news, and I expect the same thing will happen for some others of you who will see it. To the experienced GIS staff, some of these videos will address some of the procedural questions you have, and more likely, though, those questions will get addressed in FAQs that are going to be in the new version of WellSearch eTools, which will be issued shortly. To the group who have lingering doubts about the necessity of the file search in general, which is in the rule, I expect that as you acquire these GIS skills and better understanding of the process, you'll probably drop your objections. But if you don't, I would ask you to consider the following. It's estimated that this process takes anywhere from 1 to 5 hours, but while that sounds like a lot of time, it's actually a tiny part of the remedial process, and it's arguably the most important part of the remedial process, which is, as I said earlier, why it's at the beginning. From a technical perspective, the time spent at the beginning to the remediation to better understand the hydrogeology is going to pay you back in the long run, and these well records actually represent free data if you only knew where they were. So that's the process. Where are these wells? You figure that out, and you know some of the geology and hydrogeology. Also, as better locations are collected from consultants, the DEP will be able to serve that back out, which will help other consultants, and that'll save time and money as well. But that only happens if the documents that you work with are given back to us as the true locations. A few words on procedure improvements. We've received comments from consultants who reported various problems with the data miner query, with the procedure that we have, and with the reporting tool, which is known as the WellSearch spreadsheet. We've modified the WellSearch spreadsheet a couple of times, and the data miner query, which is why the spreadsheet gets changed, because when the query gets changed to match. And we're changing the web search eTools with the FAQs to address your complaints. Some say that the changes come too often, and others are frustrated that the changes don't come fast enough. We ask your patience as we make these improvements. Next slide. So let's move on to a progress report for portable well search. If you look solely at the number of WellSearch spreadsheet submissions, which are over 3,000 now, you could say that the program is a success. Submissions have the basic appearance of compliance. They have the case data generally filled out, and the submissions are usually going to the right email. But if you try to assess how many of those submissions actually contained the potable well location refinements that consultants must develop in order to actually find wells, that number is quite low, probably hovering around 3%. So how do I know this? Well, it turns out that compliant maps are rather easy to pick out. So I draw your attention to the slide that's up now, and you will see here that really this is an overlay of 2 maps. The first being the green crosses, which are the raw data miner locations that get served out to you. And the second is the black triangles, which is a real result from a consultant that shows the actual locations that that consultant came up with. The
data miner map is good for letting you know that a well may be present somewhere in the general area that you're looking. The consultant map allows you to make decisions about which owners are actually within the regulatory distance for sampling, let's say, of contamination, and to more easily contact those owners. By the way, the amount of time that I put out there came from this consultant who went through over 100 permits, located them, and said it took him 4 to 5 hours. That's because he did them one by one, which was the technology he had. If you're a little more GIS experienced, you can do batch geocoding. The effort that I just told you about with 106,000, that took a number of minutes to run. I mean, once you get it set up, it goes very fast. So address matching, you can go through a lot at once, but you need to get that skill set. So we could sum up that report on compliance by saying that almost all of the submissions we have are just replications of the raw data miner data as opposed to the refined well data that we sought. In other words, the electronic submissions are not improving the data and do not provide accurate GIS maps of well locations, which brings us to the reason why we're conducting this hot topic well search today. The tutorials you're about to see are short, and that's a good thing, and they're tailored to illustrate basic concepts in the guidance document. While these videos are modular, they do stand alone, they actually build on each other, and they introduce new skill sets as old ones are acquired. We designed them to be viewed on your PC, not to be shown in a big hearing room. So today, just think about this as your screening, and you'll be able to see it again. And, it goes quick. That's why I don't have any handouts for this, because a movie really can't be shown in static images. So you will get a chance to look at these videos again on the web. Just a moment. Tutorial 1, I'll give some brief descriptions. It's called Visualizing GIS Data with ArcGIS Explorer. That's a free tool. It contains installing the software, displaying the raw data miner well data, like these green points here, and reviewing each data point for wells to begin the process of location refinement. The second tutorial is called, again, Visualizing GIS Data with Arc Explorer, and it covers the use of the free GIS shapefiles that are on the DEP webpage, a buffer tool that's meant to represent the regulatory distance from a point of contamination, and a selection process for the Atlas grid, which in turn is then used to select well points. The last tutorial is called Determine Proposed Well Locations via Georeferencing of Driller's Overlay Map. I know that's a catchy title. It discusses a well location refinement technique that allows drawings or other maps to be overlaid onto aerial imagery in order to get direct representation of well positions. So with that, if we could take down the PowerPoint and go to the next Captivate video, which is 1B. 1B. Huh. I agree. I will find it. It's in there. You're right. There it is. See it? The shockwave object off to the left and second down. There you go. Right click on that.
The Well Search eTools guidance document on the Site Remediation GIS webpage discusses how GIS has become an integral part of the well search process. If you have not yet read it, please do so before watching this video. Within the document, you may notice that it briefly touches upon how free GIS tools could be used in place of full-function GIS. With this video, we begin the release of detailed instruction to help environmental professionals who have requested assistance with the use of free spatial tools offered by NJDEP and other organizations.
On occasion, some environmental professionals encounter difficulties with the visualization of the electronic well data offered by the NJDEP's Data Miner XY Well Search. This tutorial and others that follow will provide detailed instruction on how free GIS tools can be used to visualize and make spatial selections of the electronic well data. The video assumes you have run the XY Well Search Data Miner query and have captured its data into the raw portable spreadsheet discussed at Section 2C of eTools. If you want to, you can stop this video at any time and consult with your copy of eTools.
This video will cover the installation of an S3 product called ArcGIS Explorer, the display of the raw potables Excel table from the XY well search, and the review of well attributes data within Explorer to begin the well location refinements discussed in the well search eTools document.
Before installing ArcGIS Explorer, you must check for Windows.NET version 3.5 or higher. Windows XP stores the file at the location shown, but Vista or Windows 7 may store it elsewhere. We suggest that you go to Esri's website, which has .NET downloads and instruction on getting Explorer onto your desktop. After you have everything downloaded, launch Explorer. Using the Add Content button, you will see choices for shapefiles, geodatabases, and in this instance, text files. Navigate to your raw potables Excel file as described in the Well Search eTools document. After you select that spreadsheet, you should see a choice of Sheet 1 pop up. If the pop-up has Case Info tab, then you have selected the Well Search reporting spreadsheet from the Forms webpage. Please use the raw potables spreadsheet only.
After you select the raw potable spreadsheet, you will get a message about the amount of content on the spreadsheet.